Thank you for coming to this session that's at 6 o'clock at night, which probably is the only time that, the only thing that you want to think about right now is probably going home, sleeping, having a beer, whiskey, food, waffles, whatever. Yes, but thank you. So it's very, very nice of you to have stayed in this long. So I'm guessing that you've all come all day here and this is the last session. So I won't make it too long. I talked to the organizers. Since it's the last session, they said that we can stay here for about 1.5 hours. Okay, so you can leave in about 90 minutes. Okay, so how many of you work with IntelliJ? Right, that's fantastic because I can't see anything. The lights, I'm going to guess like around, I don't know, 50% put up your hand. How many of you work with Eclipse? Or some other IDE like NetBeans? Okay. So, I'll make it really fast. Who's worked with IntelliJ for more than 5 years? Right, that's good. Okay. So I do this presentation quite a bit. Normally I give a 1-hour presentation, and this one is going to be 30 minutes. So I'm going to cram everything I normally do in an hour in 30 minutes, which I'll have to skip a whole bunch of things, but I always say that I set the bar for myself very, very low. So if you walk away knowing 3 new things today, that will be enough for me. It should be enough for you. Why? Because I say so. So three new tips is all I ask of you to learn. Once you get those 3 new tips, you can either leave or you can stop paying attention, but don't pick up anything else because I've got to repeat this session next year and I don't have enough material for another 3 more tips. Okay, so I am going to, basically I'm going to go through IntelliJ, show you a bunch of things. Hopefully some of the things that you'll learn you've never known before that existed. As I type things, you can see that a little thingy comes up at the bottom of the screen, and that's called a plugin that's called Presentation Assist. So what you do is you go to Presentation Assist over here, and it's a plugin that you can download from my repository. And what it does is basically broadcast on the screen the keyboard shortcuts that I am projecting. Now don't write those down. This is recorded. You can see it later on. It also is helpful because it provides you with 2 alternative keyboard shortcuts, the one you're using and an alternative one, which comes in very, very handy when you're doing pair programming and that annoying colleague is sitting next to you saying, "What key did you just press?" Now they just look at the screen. Okay? So I don't want to hear a single, "What key did you just press?" Okay, so Command O, and every time I say O, you always think N if you're using this on Windows, and that only works for Command O, but anyway. So let's just go ahead and say Operation Reference Count, and Command O, what that does, it goes ahead and looks up a type. Now if anybody doesn't know this, that's not good. So Command O does looks up a type, and if I do Shift Command O, and I type scheduler, for instance, that is going to look up a file, okay? Now these things, like many things in IntelliJ, are subject to camel case. So I can write, for example, ORC, and that will take me exactly to the same thing, Operation Ref Count. I don't have to write the whole thing completely. Now, this is a really, 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 really simple question. What happens if I put 40 there? Who can tell me? It opens up 40 instances of Operation Reference Count. Oh no, it goes to line 40. Sorry, that was another thing. I'm just joking. So I'll Command O, and what that does, it looks up symbols, right? So for instance, if I write some float, you can see that it looks up some float. Now the problem with that is what? That if I have, for example, if you have a web project and you have something like index in there, you're going to have thousands of indexes. And if you look up a symbol across the entire project and you look up index, it's going to show you everything. So what you need to do is you need to kind of filter that down to where you're interested in. So let's say, for instance, that I want to go to Operation Sum Float, which are located in the test folder. Okay, so you can see that this is in the namespace Operation Sum Test, and that's all green indicating that it's a test folder. So what I could do is use camel case completion and then just write sum float, and that will take me down to that namespace and then into that specific symbol. Okay, so you can do namespace filtering by using the dot and then dragging down to wherever you want to go, which is quite useful. Of course, you can use the lookup file to also navigate into folders. So from here, you can also navigate into folders, not only for the file. And I could do, for example, source and see everything that's in source and in, never mind. Oh, I was in the wrong thing. Source, there you go. And it will show me everything that's in source, and I can do folder source and find all of the different source folders there. Okay? Now, there's one other feature that we've added. Who's using IntelliJ 13? 14. Okay. So one thing that we added, which is a double shift, which is search everywhere. And that basically means that it will search absolutely everywhere. If I write, for example, plugins, it will also look for plugins. And you can see that it has classes, and then you can tab to files, you can tab to symbols, and then actions. So it's not only searching your project, but it's searching everywhere throughout IntelliJ. It's very similar to the search everywhere kind of thing that you have in some of the editors, such as Sublime. So if I do search everywhere, I could also do, for instance, scheduler, and that will find me the scheduler file. However, that is looking through everything. So it's often more convenient to actually use Shift Command O or Command O if you're going to a type or to a symbol, etc. For other things, this is quite useful. One feature that it does have is if you use the back cursor key, you can go through all of your history. So you'll be able to find everything that you've been searching for recently. Then you can also do things, for example, like toolbar, and you can see that it shows main toolbar with a little on-off switch. If you hit enter, it will switch it off. If you hit enter, it'll switch it on. Okay? And one last thing that I can do is, for example, if I do default package, which is a run configuration, I can actually run the application as well. So I can I can do runs from here as well without using the mouse. If I keep the shift key pressed down, you can see that it switches over to run. So I have debug, run, debug, run. One thing that I always kind of recommend to people is don't use the mouse. Right? The first thing you do with the mouse when you're starting to use IntelliJ is take a hammer and smash it. Okay? You can see that I'm not using the mouse. I never use the mouse. And this thing over here that's moving, that's your imagination. It's called the touchpad. Now that's slightly different from a mouse. Yeah. No, I only do it for demo purposes. But seriously, IntelliJ is kind of built up from the ground to use keyboard. So pretty much everything that you can do with the mouse, you should be able to do with the keyboard. So don't use the mouse. Have you picked up anything yet? I don't know if that's a yes or a no, just to shut up and continue. Okay, I'll shut up and continue. So here I can also get the project file. You can see I just press Command 1, and I can from here also look for things. So for example, I could do save observable and look for everything here. The problem here is that unless it's expanded, you're not going to be able to do it. But you can see that I do have camel case completion there. And you have that basically everywhere in IntelliJ. Okay? And then you have pop-ups. So for instance, inside a file, you can also look for symbols directly inside the file and go there without actually having to do a complete lookup symbol, right? Now, at the top here, you can see that I don't have this thing activated, which is called the navigation bar, right? Who uses this? Yeah, it's one of those features that we should really kill. Nobody uses it. And I don't have it on, and you don't need to have it on. The good thing about this is that it is actually context sensitive. So if you do things, for example, did you know that you can press Command N to create a file in IntelliJ? If you didn't, very bad. You should never use File New. You should always use Command N to create a new file. So if I do Command N on, for example, schedulers here, it will create it in that scheduler folder. Okay? So, and you can do the Command N from anywhere. If it doesn't work with Command N, you do Control Alt N. So on the project window is Command N, on the navigation bar is Command N, everywhere else is Control Alt N. Okay? So here I can create all of these things. Now this thing over here takes up a lot of space, and the best thing you can do with that is switch it off. If you ever want it, you can just bring it up by pressing the Alt left arrow. Okay, and there you can just navigate through it, and again press Command N and do whatever you want from there. Okay, so hide that. Now, another thing that you would notice is, what is the difference? Well, I actually don't have this horrible thing here either. I normally turn this off, right? So there, that's my video. Now, who noticed something different from my editor to your editor? Ooh, did I just call that an editor? Sorry. IDE. It's white. Yeah, because Darkula sucks for presentations. What else? Look at this. I'm going to give you a tip. Do you see that? And that, and that. Do you see what's happening? Only one tab, yes. I don't actually have tabs on. In fact, what I do is I switch them off so that I can switch them on for you. So a lot of times people have, for example, the top tab, and they have tab limits like 10. Okay, and then they start to open these files over here. And they're like, you know, we have a bug report that says if you open over 640 tabs, then things start to jump. Yes, we know. Have a single tab. You don't need tabs, really, you don't. In fact, you don't even need any tabs. The only reason you need that tab is to see the file name, because someone decided that it's not worth putting the file name up in the caption, but there is a plugin to do that, and I'm trying to force some people to change that so that it puts the file name there. But you don't need tabs. Honestly, you don't. If you want to go to a file, you go to the file. If you want to go to a type, or the other way around. If you want to go to a type, you go to the type. If you want to go to the file, you go to the file. If you want to go to the recently tab that you just were editing, because a lot of times when you're working on two files, right? You don't want to switch back and forth with tabs. What you do is you press Control E. Okay? Control E provides you with the recent edits. Sorry, the recent files. Shift Control E provides you with the recent edits. And it's smart enough that it alternates between the two last files that you've opened. And here you can also do tests, you can do searches, and you can also go to a window. So you don't need tabs. First thing you do when you get home today, please, is drink something. After that, switch off your tabs. In fact, I use Control E so much, I am not kidding you, that my keyboard broke. The E key broke, and I was walking around for like 6 months with an external keyboard. It wasn't fun. So we're not responsible for broken keyboards, okay? So use the Shift Control E and the Shift E and the Shift Command E and the Command E to switch back and forth between things, and stop. For heaven's sake, stop using tabs. They're no good. And the other thing you can do is stop reporting bugs on tabs. That's also will be very helpful. A lot of times when I'm on something, for instance, I don't know, let's go to Scheduler over here, or actually let me go and find something like is subscribed. Is subset of, okay, well, let's see what here. So you see what happens? I want to move back and forth to look at the definition. So I can press Control B, for instance, and go to the, no, not Control B. I can go to that definition, and then I can come back. And by the way, navigating back and forth, Command with the square brackets to go back and forth. Okay, but sometimes I just want to see the definition without having to move away from there. Use Command Y to see that definition. Okay. Does anybody here use a Belgium keyboard? Very strange question to ask in Belgium, but anyway. Oh, well, did you see that? Like only 10 people put up their hand. The rest of you use a US keyboard? Yes? Okay, good. My rule of thumb, I live in Spain, otherwise known as the country that brought down Europe. So, actually Greece had a little bit, okay, never mind. So, I, several years ago, switched to US keyboard. I think it's the most efficient way to do programming. And it's also helpful when you get other people to look at your keyboard that are US or whatever. Americans. So I recommend you do that. Also, the other issue is that a lot of the keyboard bindings have issues with weird keyboards. And I'm not saying the Belgium keyboard is weird, it is, but there are even more weirder keyboards. So you've got the Z and the Y mixed around, no? Like the Germans? Yeah? Okay. My condolences. Anyway, so any questions? No, brilliant. So let's continue. There's no time for questions, I'm sorry. So one of the things that when people come to IntelliJ, they like, and this is kind of our fault, right? So you go to the website and you get like, I don't know, let's bring up something that everybody hates. Where's the Maven window? I'm not saying you hate Maven. Well, yeah, you do, kind of, yeah. Well, yeah, you know what I mean. So this is our website, right? And normally the screenshots are like this. right? And then the Vim user comes and it's like, that's absolute bullshit. I mean, like, I need to write code, not look at windows, right? So yeah, you notice that mine isn't like that. And what you actually do is you close all of this down. You don't need this. You close it all down, and there you go. And notice that I don't even have the little windows on the side. I don't have the little tabs to get to it, but you can get to that by pressing this button over here, and now you have your tabs visible. But if you want to switch it off, you just switch it off. But you can still get to those things, okay? And that's how you kind of like focus on the code. You've got this humongous canvas. You see that I don't have toolbars or anything. You just focus on what you want to do. You don't need any of those toolbars. You want them, you can also press double command twice and get all of the ones that you want and open them with the mouse, which you shouldn't be doing. You should be using the keyboard. But don't focus like that. Now, if you want to take it one step further, what you can also do is go into presentation mode, right? Which is basically an empty canvas. This is kind of useful for doing presentations, but it's also useful for if you just want to be completely distract-free, right? Unfortunately, right now it doesn't switch off Twitter or block Hacker News, but that's something that we could potentially add as a plugin. I think that would be quite useful. But this provides you with complete distraction-free environment. You can see that everything becomes a little bit bigger as well, because that's the idea. It's kind of been presentation mode. But what you can do is go to presentation mode and down here, change the font size. So if you put the font size exactly the same font size that you're normally using, then it doesn't make much difference. Okay? Now, if you want to take it one step further and challenge yourself even more, what you can do is go to plugins and click install JetBrains plugin and look for IDEA Vim. Okay? And what that does is install this plugin which never allows you to exit IntelliJ anymore. No, I've actually had that bug. Like, you install IntelliJ and then you're like, why can't I type? I can't type in the editor anymore. So, yes, how many Vim users? It's actually it's quite good. There are some issues, but in general it's very good. And remember that Vim and IntelliJ play different roles. Vim is very good at working with text, editing text, navigating through the text, whereas IntelliJ's focus is more around working with symbols, elements, semantics of your project. So they fit in quite nicely together. Okay, so you can go ahead and install Vim, but don't call us if you have issues. One other thing that you can do is, especially if you have two monitors, is press Shift F4, and what that does is move that editor to a second monitor, which is quite useful for when you're doing copy pasting, which we all do as developers, right? It's one of the best ways to reuse code, to just copy paste. So you've got that as well. Okay, so if you want to go quickly into this mode of having windows or not having windows, what you can also do is press Shift Command. Right, what was I saying? Anyway, bloody nice weather we had today here, huh? I mean, it's like really cold in France, and here it's just like fantastic. Anyway, now I don't know what happened there. Never mind. We'll call it 625 issues. So another thing, how do you select text? Now, initially we used to do select text with Control W, Command W, and the Mac users really got pissed off at us because they kept saying, I want to close my window and you keep selecting text for me. On the Mac, by the way, if you're using the Mac, you have to use 10.5 plus keyboard map, right? Not the 10.5. So if I want to select text, what I do is I put the mouse here and I go like this, okay? Or you can just press the Alt and up, and you can see that it's context sensitive. So based on where you are, it will select, for example, a method. You can extend to select more methods, extend to select class, and so on, and you can shrink it the other way around as well. It's also useful to select text, and then if you want to move text up and down, do it like that. Don't ever cut text and paste it. That's not the way you move code. And if you do cut by mistake and then you come here and you do another cut, now you're screwed, because instead of having the code that you wanted to paste, you've got a blank line. But if you press Shift Command V, you get your clipboard up which allows you to paste different elements. So this gives you a history of your clipboard. Okay? No questions still? Okay. Another thing that we did was, this was one of the main complaints of everyone that is using Sublime or other things. Let me go and see some. Okay, so take a look at this. By the way, I said that you can do everything with a mouse, right? Do you think you can do this with a mouse? Well, yes, you can with a mouse. Of course you can. Can you do it with the keyboard? Yes, you can. Nice, huh? You didn't get see that one coming, did you? Okay, so this is like, you know, the most important feature that we've added in the past 5 years. Shift Alt, and I can start to select multiple cursors, right? Now I can do it even cooler. I can do, for example, Shift Alt there, and then here, and then here, and then here. Wow, is that cool? Yeah, that's cool, right? Now, that doesn't give you a green card to go ahead and start doing silly refactorings by like that, okay? You know, because a lot of Sublime or Vim or editor users come to IntelliJ and they're like, I can't refactor. That's not how you refactor. That's only when you can't use any of the built-in refactorings is when you use something like that. And remember I said that everything is possible to do without a mouse, except that, right? The only possible solution to that is to bring back scroll lock. And if you want to do that, well, we've got another issue. I was thinking maybe we can start a Kickstarter project to bring that back. The other thing that you can do is if you want to, for example, select the key, a wow, you can select the wow and just type all of that. Or you can just, for example, let's undo that. And I can say I want to select all of the wows across the entire system. So I could do Control Command G and select all of the wows. Okay? So you can select individual items and then successively, or just select them all. Okay? So, what else do we have here? Have you learned anything new yet or not? Oh, wow, look, we're waking up, aren't we? Right. Who does HTML? Okay. A lot of the things that I show you are also available in HTML, right? So how do you write a div? You go div, ID, my class, right? And then if I want to do 5 elements, a list, how would I do this? I press Control D. Okay, cool, right? That wasn't what I was going to show you. Or I can do my class, UL, li times 5, and I can get that, okay? Have you used that? No. I love the kind of like, yeah. It's kind of cool, okay. I once tried this actually with 500. Do it? No, it's going to crash. No, let's do 200, okay? Ooh, wow. Wow. Now don't go putting lists those long in your HTML because you can, okay? We don't want to do that. Right, couple of things in terms of editing I want to show you quickly because you know, we are running out of time here. This is one of the most important things. First of all, I'm going to make this a Java method, which means that I have to... Do you know how you make this a Java method, right? You refactor this and you call it factory of factories. There you go. Now it's Java. So if I do, for example, buffer reader here, and I do buffer reader, and I do new, what's going to happen here is that it's going to give me basically everything, right? Everything that could possibly, you know, kind of be there is given. That's completion. What you should normally be using is what's called smart completion, right? Because in essence, I can only like kind of instantiate something that descends from buffer reader, right? So if I press Shift Control space, then what I get there is smart completion, which is basically anything that is available to be instantiated there. So I can say buffer reader, and then here I can say parameter info and do, for example, new file reader, and then here I can write some text and whatever. Now, that's smart completion. One other thing that we have is like you start to write buffer reader, blah, 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 and you're like, oops, what I actually wanted to do there is say if buffer reader is not null, then do something. Okay? So the way that you do that, you don't have to delete. It's kind of like in the old days with the people that came from the typewriters to computers. They made a mistake here and they used to delete the whole line out. We don't want to do that. What we do is we say not null, and it does it for us. Okay? That's called postfix completion, which is a couple of things that we've added in one of the recent versions of IntelliJ. Did you know about that one? I don't know why I ask questions, because I don't understand what you're saying anyway. Right. So I've got 4 minutes left, and I want to show you something that probably a lot of people are not aware of. It's called structural search and replace, which is one of the more powerful things. If you go to inspections here, you can see that we have a whole bunch of inspections. Right? You can switch them on and off, and these are what the red, green, yellow things on the side of the toolbar appear, which allow you to kind of say, my code is right, my code is wrong, what have you. Okay. We also have this thing called structural search. And what this does, it combines the concept of live templates with searching throughout your code. So basically what I'm doing here is I'm defining a template, and these are placeholders, and these placeholders can have different values. So for instance, I can say that this is a try exception, this is of type exception type, or anything that inherits from exception type. The catch statement can have, for example, a minimum number of statements or a maximum number of statements, etc. And what this does, this template that I've defined in particular, allows me to search for code. Well, they all allow me to search for code, but what this one is doing is going to search for empty try catch blocks, right? Something that you should never do. So you can see that here I have a try catch block, which is basically, well, a try catch block you should do. What you shouldn't do is just swallow the exception. So what this does is search throughout your code base for code smells. And you can define those patterns yourself. So you don't have to actually go and create inspections by means of plugins, but by just defining these structural search templates. Okay? The cool thing about that is that it also provides you with the ability to replace things. So what I can do here, you can see that as soon as I go on here, there's a little light bulb, and that is my replace pattern. So it gives me an intention. What have I told that intention? I've said if you find the try catch block with an empty exception handler, you might as well just not do it. So just replace it with the method calls itself. Okay? This is a very, very powerful feature because it allows you to customize inspections to look for code smells in your own code base. And you can import these as inspections so that you don't have to explicitly search for them, but they can always be active. Okay? So take a look at that. If you are using IntelliJ, how many of you are using Java 8? Right? Well, if you're using IntelliJ, you already know functional programming because you just come here, press Alt, Enter, and it becomes functional. So you can see the underlining here, and now you have for each. Okay, a little bit of a joke, but anyway, don't laugh. It's fine. Okay, to finish up, a couple more things. We have this little thing over here, which is probably one of the most important keyboard shortcuts you should know about, Shift-Command-A, and what that does is execute an action. And if you don't know the keyboard shortcut, you can just look it up. So for example, refactor, you can also, if I say rename, it shows me the renaming and it shows me all of the keyboard shortcuts. I can run anything from here, including, for example, test RESTful web service, which is a very good built-in tool to allow you to call out to any web service, do get, post, delete, options, everything. You can pass in request bodies, the whole works. You also have, for those diehards like myself, you also have a built-in terminal, Alt F12, which allows you to execute all of your terminals, and it has your ZSH or your bash or what have you here. And one last thing, which I'm guessing that how many of you have actually ever opened up this menu over here? Yeah, one. Right. There you go. I was having a debate recently with a colleague of mine that's here, but I won't point him out. He was saying documentation should be in the product. I'm like, yeah, right. So help. How many of you here have gone to this thing called Productivity Guide? 4 people. You probably think it's a PDF that opens up on the website. It's not. We just named it badly. And what this is it analyzes everything you do, and then it tells you what you have used, what you've not used, and every one that you click on, it gives you information about what it is. So basically, if I had shown you this at the very beginning of this session, you didn't need to stay here. Okay? And with that, our time is up. Any questions? No? Well, thank you for assisting. You're free to go.